Hello and welcome back to my channel, Craft Time by Casey. I am Casey and this is the necklace that we will be making today. I used the large stone focal pendant that was in this month's Bargain Bead Box for February 2022, and as you can see, I decided to leave it just as it was. I didn't think that it needed any extra embellishment on the pendant itself. I love the detail of that wire wrapping, and I just think it's beautiful. So I put the emphasis in the chain and the beads and details of the necklace itself. So if you'd like to see how this necklace came about, stay tuned. So let me explain what we have here, and then we will just jump right into it. So just about everything that I'm using is from the February 2022 Bargain Bead Box. All of the beads that are here came from the box. The giant stone focal, this is kind of what I built the entire necklace around. I love the way this looks. I love the simplicity of the bar around it. I love the wire wrapping. And honestly, I really just don't want to do anything to it. I loved it the moment I took it out of the box. Knew I was going to use it. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it just like that, except for I'm going to take the bail off because I'm going to do something else to the hoop at the top. But like I said, I kind of built everything around this. So most of the beads that I'm using are kind of the natural stone looking beads because I really think it ties it together really nice with this focal. So I'm using the chain from the bead box. Now the things of my own that I've added to it, I have this one connector piece that is a Celtic knot. I really like the way this looks, and it kind of helps with the effect that I want to have with the 2-strand into the 1-strand necklace. I have this design in my head, and I feel like that will work very, very well. And the bead caps that I'm using also came from my own stash, and they are kind of a flower-esque. But they do have the really cool kind of markings in each side. And the head pins, jump rings, the findings and whatnot are mostly from my stash, except for the chain here. There will be a portion of my necklace where I'm going to be stringing onto this wire. And the wire that I am using for that one part will be this bead along wire, bead along 49 strand in the color Bright. It's the silver color to kind of go with the findings. Here we go. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and take this bail off of this pendant. And I'll tell you real quick the tools that I'm going to be using. I have 2 sets of chain nose pliers. I have 1 set of round nose pliers. I have my set of cutters, and I will be using my crimp pliers for the portion that I will be using the wire with. So I'm going to take this bail off. And now I'm going to start to put together the components first. So the components that I will be using, or I will be creating, I should say, they're all going to be on these open eye pins, just like this. So here we go. I'm going to be using these little rondelles. So we've got the rondelle at the bottom and flat rondelle in this kind of lavender color. Then I'm going to have a bead cap, open end up, and this is where I'm going to be using this deep plum colored stone bead. Put that in the middle, a bead cap going down, and I'm going to kind of close it off the same way I opened it with the flat piece. and then another little rondelle. Just like that. So my first component is going to look like that. And now I'm going to create my loop at the top, and I always try to look at the bottom to make sure that the loop at the top faces the same way. So I have it setting on my finger just like that, where it's facing me. And then how I create my loops. So I go to the top of the pin, so then I bend it, and then I bend it back with my fingers. And usually it's really easy to bend it back, but since this is kind of a long component, I'm gonna pull in my other pliers to help me in bending it back. And then you'll see that it's got the start of a loop, and yes, it looks a little wonky, but here's where you cut it off. And then you close it with your round nose pliers. Just like that. So here is our very first component. So I'm gonna set it down here, and I'm gonna kind of line the components up across. So my next component, I'm gonna take another head pin, and I'm also gonna have one of the little rondelles. And then I'm going to use these bright reflective round beads. And then another open-ended bead cap. Put in these natural stones. Just like that. Closed bead cap on the top. And then we're going to have the opposite bright shiny bead, just like that, and then the rondelle. So here is this component. All right, so now I'm going to do the same thing where I make the loop like this, where it's facing me, rest it on my finger, and then this loop I'm gonna do it the same way, but you'll see since there's more of it left over that it'll go a little bit easier. So bend it just like that, bend it back with my fingers. And then you have the start of a loop. You cut off the end, just like this, and close the loop. Just like that. So here is the second component, and these components aren't actually attached to each other in the necklace, but like I said, I have the components, I have the design in my brain, so I kind of know where I'm going with all these. All right, and then the last component that I have is going to be another head pin, or another eye pin, I should say, and then I'm going to have open bead cap at the bottom, natural stone, closed bead cap, and then in the middle I have this flat spacer, just like that, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the natural stone on the other side. Open bead cap, stone, closed bead cap, just like this. And then I'm going to make a loop. So when I get to the top of this, I'm going to make sure the loop at the bottom is facing me, and then I'm going to bend it. And then bend it over with my fingers. And then again, a nice loop. So I snip off the end of it. And then with the bead cap at the top, I like the bead caps to be nice and snug. So I'm going to close this loop by putting the end of that pin into the top of that bead cap because I want it to be nice and snug. There we go. And there we go. There's our component. So we have our 3 components put together. So now we're going to have the part that we're going to string together. So the first thing I'm going to do is take one of my jump rings. When they come, they always come like slightly open. So I want to make sure that jump ring is closed nice and tight. So that will be the end of what I'm stringing. All right, so I take my beading wire and I'm going to put on a crimp tube. And this is a number 2 crimp tube. Put it right over there. And then I'm going to put the jump ring on there. And then fold it over and fold it back through the crimp tube. All right. So then I pull it back because I don't want that much of a tail. Okay. So I try to hold them apart so that they don't get tangled underneath. So here we go. Now I'm going to crimp this. With my crimping pliers, you see there are 2 divots in there. I'm going to go into the most inner divot and then I'm going to push it down. And when you do that, it'll make like a taco shape, just like that. And then fold it to the side. I say fold it, just turn it to the side. And then you're going to go into that first divot and then crimp it down. And that will fold the taco like that, make it a little bit tighter. So for me, that's not tight enough. So I always go to that flat part at the end of the crimping pliers and just give it a good little smash. And that way it's really tight together. I always like that last step with the flat part because I feel like that gives it just a little extra security. So now I'm going to hold on to this jump ring and I'm going to cover my crimp tube with a crimp cover. So I put it over just like that. And I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and smash it down. Just like that. So now that end is nice and secure. So the way that I'm beading this, I don't need that tail and it won't fit back into this rondelle. So I know a lot of people like to put that tail through the first couple of beads, and I do that too sometimes, but it's not really necessary for the extra security. So I'm going to go ahead and snip that off. So I get as close as I can and snip, and there we go. So I just have that one wire. So now I'm going to string. And this is just kind of straightforward. I'm going to start with the small rondelle. And then I'm going to use this deep purple bicone, just like this. And then the kind of rainbow spectrum color circle bead, round bead, bicone, and then the smaller rondelle. And I'll show you the grouping as soon as I get this one on. So this is what the order is going to look like. And I'll just repeat this over and over, and I'll show it again. So from here, we're just going to kind of repeat the pattern backwards. So I'm going to go straight into the bicone, then into the round bead, bicone, small rondelle. So you can see that pattern is going to be repeated, okay? And I'm going to repeat that pattern 4 times. So here it is at the end. All right, and yes, this is just a little short piece. This is going to be part of the multi-strand part of the necklace. So I'm going to tie off the other end, well, not tie it off, I'm going to close it off just like I did this first part. So I have this side of the wire, I'm going to put on the crimp tube, and then the jump ring. And then I'm going to make sure the jump ring is on the inside, and I will put it back through the crimp tube, put the wire back through the crimp tube. And then I'm gonna kind of pull it nice and snug. I'll hang on to that jump ring and give it a pull. All right, so now I'm going to hold on to this end. I'm going to take my crimping pliers, I'm going to do the same thing in that second divot, just like that. Get that taco, turn it into that first divot, just like that. And then it's a little bit closer, but like I always say, I go into that flat part and just make it a little bit more secure. And then it's crimped a lot tighter. So I will go ahead and cut off that tail. So we're going to take our crimp cover and put it right over that crimp tube. All right, and then I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to give it a good squeeze. All right, so here is this component. Okay, so now we have all of our components for this side of it. This is one side of the chain. We'll go ahead and put them together. So I'm going to take a jump ring, open it, and I'm going to, for my Celtic knot, I'm putting it on this outside part of it because this is going to be on the bottom half that has 2 sides to it. Okay, so this is going to be the side that has this strung component to it. Just put that jump ring on it and then close that jump ring. Then I'm going to take another jump ring, and here I'm going to connect my other 2 components. So these components down here, I'm going to connect them first, and when I connect them, this will be the secondary strand down here, just like this. So now I'm going to connect this piece to the connector as well. I'm gonna grab my jump ring, just like this, and connect this to the inside, just like that. And close the jump ring. And if you look at this, the way it's supposed to hang, this side is just that little bit longer. And you definitely want it that way because it's going to be the outer portion of the necklace. Okay, so when you're making these two pieces, you definitely do not want them to be the same length. That is very, very important on how they hang when you wear a necklace. Okay, so now this top part, we're going to get another jump ring. And connect this right here to this component. Close that jump ring. This is what it looks like right now. And then I'm going to connect the chain to the top. Now, for the chain that came in the bead box, I actually did count the links. Normally I don't when I'm making jewelry, but if you're making this along with me, this chain is 46 links. So the top of this component up here, I'm going to connect it to this link, or to the component, and then I'm going to connect it to the last link in the chain, just like that. And then I'm going to connect them together, just like that. So now, here is our component. Okay, so this is going to be one side of our necklace. So what you need to do at this point is make a second one just like this. Okay, so this will be one side, just like this, and then you'll need this exact thing to be replicated on the other side. So I'll go ahead and create the second one and then meet back up with you. All right, so here we are. I have created the second one, which is the other side of the necklace, and now we are going to connect everything to the pendant, and then of course connect the lobster clasp to the end. So here we go. We're going to start with this side over here, and we're going to take the jump rings that are attached and connect it to the pendant, and then close the jump ring. All right, make sure it's all kind of fallen the correct way. Then we're going to take the jump ring that's connected to this one, open it, and make sure you put it on the correct side of that one, and connect it. So now these two are connected. And then we're going to connect this side the same way. So I'm going to take this jump ring, open it. I'll go ahead and do it left-handed, even though I'm not left-handed. Make sure they stay on the correct side, and these come on this side. All right. Close it. Right now we have a bunch of things going every which way, but it is okay. So then we're going to connect the jump ring on the secondary part. make sure that it is in the right spot. So it'll be the one farthest on this side. Then we're going to close that jump ring. All right, so now, the way that it should lay is like this. Oh, that's so pretty. It is so awesome when you see it in your head and then it comes together. I love it. All right, so now let's put on the Lobster Clasp. First thing we're gonna do is grab the smaller jump ring, the 4mm jump ring. And this is the one we're gonna use to connect our Lobster Clasp to this end. And we're just going to connect it to that last link in the chain and then connect our Lobster Clasp. Just like that. And then the other side, this is a bigger jump ring and it's actually a thicker gauge jump ring as well, because this is the one that is connecting the Lobster Clasp when it closes the necklace. So here we go. We're going to close this jump ring. All right. So now let's close the necklace. And there you have it. There is our necklace. So I'm going to go put it on our display so it is easier to see. All right, so here it is, the final product. And I absolutely love the way it came out. I think it was a very good decision to kind of leave that pendant exactly as it was with that wire wrapping detail and just kind of add all the detail and emphasis to the chain and necklace itself. I just think it's beautiful. I love the way it came out. And if you liked this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Also hit the like button. Leave a comment. Tell me what you thought. Do you like this design? Did you come up with something different? I just absolutely love reading your comments. You guys are so kind. It is one of the best things about my day, just hearing what you guys have to say, and I greatly appreciate it. And I definitely look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.